The puppy wouldn't look at anyone, until a homeless veteran simply sat beside him, silent and still. In that fragile moment, everything changed. One broken soul reached out to another. But what happened next will surprise you. First, let's go back to the beginning. The puppy was a shadow clinging to the coldest corner of the shelter courtyard. A shivering bundle of dirty tan fur, so small it barely made a dent against the cracked concrete. His ribs showed through the tangled coat, every breath shallow and unsure. Children squealed nearby, pointing at a golden retriever who performed eager tricks for treats, while couples bent to pet plump Labrador puppies tumbling over each other. Yet the tiny stray remained invisible, head low, ears flat against his skull, his watery brown eyes refusing to meet anyone's gaze. He wasn't just scared. He was broken. Across the yard, Mike Harris stood, one foot braced against the sun-warmed brick wall, his arms crossed over a battered chest. 52 years old, yet his face seemed older, weathered deep by years of harsh winds, harder nights, and memories he couldn't leave behind. His salt and pepper hair was tucked beneath a faded army cap, and his worn-out jeans bore a scattering of paint stains from a job long lost. Every inch of him, from the heavy combat boots to the calluses on his hands, told a story most people didn't want to hear. Mike hadn't come looking for companionship. He had come for a warm meal, a barter offered by the shelter in exchange for patching some broken fencing. But as he leaned there, watching the forgotten puppy shake beneath a battered wooden bench, something inside him stirred. It wasn't pity. It wasn't sympathy. It was recognition. Mike had seen that same guarded fear in his own reflection more times than he could count. He understood what it meant to flinch when kindness got too close, to brace for pain where love should have been. He knew how hope could become a weight too heavy to carry. Without even realizing he was moving, Mike pushed away from the wall. His boots scuffed the gravel, slow and steady, never directly facing the pup. He approached sideways, cautious, respectful, the way you approach a wild creature that has learned the world is full of teeth. He dropped to one knee, careful to keep his hands open and low, palms up, offering nothing but his silent presence. The puppy flinched. Mike didn't speak. He didn't reach out. He simply sat there, breathing slow and deep, letting the late afternoon sun settle over them both. For a long, long time, neither moved. And then, barely noticeable unless you were holding your breath waiting for it, the puppy's nose twitched toward Mike's hand, a beginning, as fragile as a whispered prayer. Mike didn't speak. Words would have been too loud, too much. Instead, he slowly eased himself down onto the sun-warmed concrete, his every movement deliberate, his breathing deep and even, like he was approaching a wounded bird. The puppy tensed as Mike settled beside him, a bundle of nerves ready to bolt at the first wrong move. His tiny body pressed harder against the corner of the bench leg, eyes wide and shining with raw, wordless fear. His frail chest heaved with each shallow breath, and his small, dirt-crusted paws quivered against the ground. Mike made himself smaller, folding his tall, wiry frame in on itself. He lowered his weathered hands palm up onto the gravel, offering nothing but his presence. No leashes, no sudden movements, just stillness. Around them, the shelter buzzed with life. The high-pitched excitement of children dragging parents toward pens, volunteers calling out names, the rhythmic clink of kennel doors swinging open and shut. But in Mike's world, in the little circle of quiet he carved with his patience, there was only him and the broken thing beside him. Minutes stretched out, elastic and heavy. Mike didn't dare glance directly at the pup. He kept his gaze slightly downward, letting his body language say everything his voice might have ruined. "I'm not here to hurt you. Take your time." The puppy's trembling grew less frantic. His big brown eyes darted to Mike's boots, to the open hands, to the battered army cap casting a shadow across Mike's lined face. His instincts screamed caution, but something deeper, something quieter and hungrier tugged at him. With a hesitation so profound it felt sacred, the puppy's paw inched forward, dragging across the concrete like a ghost testing the living world. Mike didn't move, didn't even breathe. The pup's nose twitched, a shaky breath, then a cold, feather-light touch against Mike's fingertips. A wet nose, cautious but real. Mike's throat closed around the lump rising there. He blinked hard against the sudden sting in his eyes. Gently, achingly slow, he curled his fingers just slightly, enough to let the pup know he felt it, that he welcomed it. A broken man and a broken pup, meeting not with fanfare, but with the fragile trust of survivors who recognize each other. Mike's voice, when it finally came, was barely more than a breath. "It's okay, little guy," he whispered, voice cracking under the weight of it all. "I know what it's like to be invisible." And somehow, impossibly, in that messy, imperfect moment, they both became just a little more seen. The first tail wag was so slight, so tentative, it might have been missed if not for the sharp-eyed volunteers hovering nearby. A tiny flick, the briefest shiver of hope where before there had been only fear. And just like that, word spread through the shelter like a spark catching dry grass. Volunteers paused their work, glancing over with cautious awe. Denise, the shelter director, a sturdy, warm woman in her late 40s with short, curly hair and reading glasses perched on her nose, stepped out from her office, wiping her hands on her jeans. One look at the scene, Mike sitting cross-legged, battered boots dusty, with the tiny, fragile puppy curled protectively against his thigh, and she froze, her heart catching in her throat. Nobody had been able to reach that dog. Not with treats, not with toys, not even with time. But here he was, cradled not by arms but by presence, his entire little body pressed trustingly into the side of a man society had forgotten. Later, in the quiet hum of the intake office, Denise broached the subject carefully. "You could foster him if you wanted," she said, voice kind but cautious. "He's made it pretty clear who he trusts." Mike's hand rested on the puppy's back, feeling the steady rhythm of sleep under his fingertips. His throat tightened. For so long he had lived day to day, thinking that surviving was the only victory he had left. But looking down at the tiny creature who had finally closed his eyes in peace beside him, something shifted deep in his chest, something stubborn, something alive. Denise hesitated, sympathy etched across her features. "You'd need a permanent address," she added gently, almost apologetically. Mike nodded slowly, understanding. This wasn't pity. This was a door swinging open. But he had to walk through it himself. "I'll figure it out," he said, the resolve surprising even him with its steadiness. True to his word, within a month, thanks to Denise's recommendation and a local veteran outreach program, Mike had a key to a small but clean transitional housing unit on the south side of town. It wasn't much. A bed, a kitchen that barely fit a table, and walls that needed fresh paint. But it was his, and more importantly, it was theirs. Standing at the shelter's front desk, paperwork in hand, Mike carefully signed his name across the adoption forms. No handouts, no half measures, just a man claiming the right to heal, and to help someone else heal too. The puppy, now officially named Chance, wriggled in his arms, tail whipping side to side like a joyous little flag. As if he knew, deep in his puppy heart, that sometimes second chances come wrapped not in miracles, but in broken men willing to hope again. Chance adjusted to his new home the way broken things sometimes do, carefully, tentatively, and then all at once. At first he stayed close to Mike's side, like a shadow stitched to his jeans. He would flinch at loud noises, tremble at unfamiliar footsteps. But every day, piece by piece, That fragile trust grew stronger. Mike set a simple rhythm to their days. Morning walks through the small park down the block, afternoons lounging by the window where the sunlight pooled like honey, evenings spent on the threadbare couch with Chance dozing against his ribs. No demands, no rush. Just two souls learning that it was okay to be safe. Neighbors noticed first. The gruff, quiet veteran with the shy puppy always close by. Kids started waving at them. Store owners slipped treats into Mike's bag for Chance. The world, which had once turned its face away from Mike's worn boots and weary eyes, now opened in small, tentative gestures of kindness. One crisp autumn afternoon, as golden leaves spiraled around them, Chance did something new. He barked, a bright, excited yelp at a squirrel scampering by. Mike laughed, a rough, disused sound that broke free from his chest like a bird finally released. It wasn't just the puppy who was healing. Through Chance, Mike rediscovered the pieces of himself he'd thought were lost forever. The protector, the friend, the man capable of building a home, even if it started small, even if it hurt sometimes. Sitting on a park bench one evening, Chance sprawled across his lap. Mike stared up at the bruised pink and orange sky. The city lights began to blink to life around them, and a cool breeze teased the brim of his battered army cap. He thought about all the places he'd been, all the goodbyes he never got to say, all the battles he had fought, both out in the world and inside his own mind, and he thought about how it all somehow led him here, to a scrawny, broken puppy who had refused to look at anyone. Until Mike sat down beside him and didn't ask for anything except permission to stay. Maybe healing didn't come with parades or medals. Maybe it came quietly, on 4 unsteady paws, with a wagging tail and a heart brave enough to hope. And as Chance sighed in his sleep, pressing closer, Mike realized, sometimes the second chance you give someone else becomes the one that saves you too.